Most new entrepreneurs spend months or even years planning their business launch, but still, almost 50% of small businesses fail within the first 5 years. But what if you could get total clarity about your business idea and come up with a fail-proof plan in just 4 hours? That is what Katarina, our guest today, does. Katarina Hanssens Carlsson has helped over 2,000 entrepreneurs build a crystal clear plan on their life and business based on neuroscience. She is a UN global speaker, a mentor with TechStars, and the creator of the Entrepreneurial Success Blueprint, a method that helps you validate your business idea, uncover your zone of genius, and build a compelling vision for your future. If you're thinking about starting your own business, but you're not sure what direction to take, or if you want to feel confident that your idea will actually work, this episode will help.
Basically, I was what they call a wow finder. Find a wow idea, in 4 hours. Now I can say that. I'm a wow finder. I'll find your wow idea in 4 hours. That's what we do, guaranteed. I've been doing that for 20 years.
Katarina will show you exactly how to figure out what business to start, how to make it work, and how to move forward with total clarity. Welcome to The Creator's Adventure, where we interview creators from around the world, hearing their stories about growing a business. Hey everyone, I'm Brian McAnulty, the founder of Heads Platform. Let's get into it. Hey Katarina, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brian. I'm glad to be here.
My first question for you today is, what would you say is the biggest thing you did or you are doing that has helped you to achieve the freedom to do what you enjoy?
The biggest thing I've done is, after a search of 20 years, is to create the Entrepreneurial Blueprint consultation, which helps people find their roadmap to success in 1 day, just 4 hours. That's it, guaranteed.
Yeah, so you help people find this kind of clarity in their business in just these 4 hours.
Yes.
What exactly can happen in like that short window that makes your process so effective?
Well, there's a lot. First of all, it's about identity. People need to know who they are. Well, obviously, we're not our address, we're not our name, we're not our job. We need to have a statement that is really, really powerful. And that usually comes from our past. Sometime in our past, we were at peak level. So that's the most important part. And sometimes it takes up to 2 hours to find your real entrepreneurial identity. So we look at the real entrepreneurial identity. We also look at the inner saboteur's identity, because we all have one. It's to do with the reptilian brain. It wants us to be safe and small and not take risks. And as you know, Brian, we all need to take risks as an entrepreneur. It's part of the fun. And yeah, there's a certain amount of I wouldn't say danger, but there could be some loss involved. Or there could be some gain. So identity is number one. Then the inner saboteur also has a habit. We have a habit of procrastination. We have a habit that's desyllabating. It desyllabates us, and it disables us from our success. So we need to turn that around. And then we need to know the impact of our sabotage strategy. It affects our health, our relationships, our well-being, our finances, our work, everything. So once we turn that around and reinvent our sabotage strategy, then we go back to our success strategy with the established identity. We create a new identity from the reinvented saboteur identity, a new habit, and then our skill. By the time I get to this stage of the consultation, people are saying to me, my clients say, I can do anything. And I say, okay, what do you really want to do? And they say, well, I've always wanted to do this. And I say, that's it. That's your driving purpose. Now we're going to create your vision, which is what you're going to achieve monetarily and what you're going to do in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. So that takes 4 hours, sometimes 5 hours if it's a more complex business or somebody who has several businesses. But that's what we do in 4 hours, guaranteed. I've been doing that for 20 years.
Yeah, I think like that alone is something that people can spend weeks or months or even years kind of stuck on even what to do and move forward. And I, I
Absolutely.
see I
Most
see
people
so
don't.
many people are stuck, and I wish that I could kind of help them just move along a little bit forward to get really even get going with their business in the first place. For yourself, like what would you say, what is that identity for yourself? Is there, how would you describe that?
My identity, do you mean?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So I'm also the founder of Global Leadership Schools. So I would say I am I am the transformer of 195 schools worldwide. That's powerful.
And yeah, I
It
like
should
that.
scare
And
it should scare people a little bit. Like, how is she going to do that? Well, one school at a time. We're starting in Stockholm here, and then our next school is in Cape Town, and just one school at a time, one student at a time.
yeah, I really like that. And what is I think the saboteur, as you described it, there's many ways that that can exist or take shape for a person. So, like, what was like what is your saboteur, I guess?
Aha. Well, at one time, believe it or not, I felt like a victim. I felt depressed. I was depressed for years. I felt like a victim. But it didn't stop me from searching. So, yeah, so mine was I am a victim. It isn't anymore. I got past that, but I
What
think a lot of people have.
is there one if somebody's like right now trying to say to themselves, well, I don't think I have that, or I don't think I have any issue like that. Like how would they kind of discover that for themselves? What that might be?
Okay, so how you do that, Brian, is you go to the worst moment of your life. It takes some courage to do that. So people may say, well, I never think that about myself. I've never thought of myself as worthless or a victim or whatever. But in that moment of pain, of trauma, your inner saboteur will say, you are a failure. So it could be anything like that. So for people who are listening, go back to a moment. The worst moment in your life could be a divorce, could be loss of a child, it could be failure of a business, whatever it is. We sometimes are very vindictive. We can be very vindictive against ourselves, especially in our worst moments. So it's not something we say to each other or say to ourselves every single day. It's something that happened in the past that actually comes up and affects us every single day. It's the power of the inner saboteur. But once you reinvent it, this inner saboteur doesn't have any power anymore.
Yeah, I like that. So you've worked with over 2,000 entrepreneurs. What would you say is the most common maybe mistake or blind spot when you see somebody who's just getting started?
Good, great question. I think very few entrepreneurs really identify whether they're visionary entrepreneurs. In other words, people with idea after idea after idea. They never stop thinking of ideas. Okay, that's a visionary entrepreneur. An organizational entrepreneur is somebody with like one idea and very good at organization, but not necessarily good at creating or diversification. And then marketing entrepreneur markets, and sells, which is good, but they may not have come up with new ideas like a visionary. So if you get all three working together, it's amazing.
So I think a lot of our audience is maybe skewing more towards the visionary side. What advice would you give them to be able to kind of cover all those sides of?
Good. I would say when you're starting up, if you don't have a lot of capital, which many of us don't in the beginning, then work on your marketing skills. Take a marketing course because we can do it. We know our driving purpose, hopefully, we know our offer. So we should be able to market. Organize as much as you can, because what happens with visionaries is we come up with a great idea, and if we don't write it down and we don't organize what we write, then we can lose it, because it doesn't necessarily, we think we can rely on our memory, but that doesn't necessarily happen, because another idea comes up, another idea comes up. So I would advise visionaries to have post-it notes and organize them. Organize your post-it notes. If you have an idea at 4 o'clock in the morning, write it down. Don't go back to sleep and think you're going to remember it. You may not. You're smiling. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah. No, that sounds that sounds familiar. Yeah. So I have a to-do list, which I basically kind of treat as an idea list. As soon as I think of anything, it goes in there first, just to make sure I didn't forget it. So that way, whether I'm out, whether I'm about to fall asleep, or whatever it is, I can make sure that I record it, and then I can revisit that and then understand, okay, do I go from there? Should I expand on this? Do I have to, do I communicate this to the rest of my team? And try to treat it myself, so that way I can comfortably forget everything and then revisit it later.
Exactly, because we visionaries don't like stuff around us. We like clarity, and we like everything to be organized, because otherwise we can't think straight, right? And if another idea comes, we don't want them clashing, and the more organized we are, the better.
Yeah. Organization is so important, and I think the visionary who builds the great product, you have to have that organization, and you have to have that marketing, because if you don't have the marketing, you've got to tell somebody about it. If it's the best thing in the world and you tell somebody about it, then even telling a couple people is enough that they'll start telling others. But most likely it's going to take time to get it to become the best thing in the world. So you're going to have to put in some effort in that marketing. And then once you start getting customers, if you have to grow your team, if you have to get somebody else involved in the business, you have to be clear about how things work, and communicate things and organize it, and not just have it only in your head.
Absolutely, Brian. I mean, we as visionaries, well, I'll talk about myself. Once I came up with the Entrepreneurial Blueprint consultation, I went to an organization called IBI, Income Builders International. I don't know if you're familiar with it, with Bernie Dorman. It's now CEO Space. But I was so excited about it, and I communicated it at a level that nobody got it. I mean, and they just moved on in the group. And I said, what? Don't you have a comment to make? Because I was so excited about it. Basically, I was what they call a wow finder. Find a wow idea, in 4 hours. Now I can say that. I'm a wow finder. I'll find your wow idea in 4 hours. But at that time, I didn't know how to communicate it. I thought I was being really clear. But no, we need to be able to communicate so that a smart 7-year-old, a smart 5-year-old can get it.
Yeah. I tell creators this all the time when they're trying to build an online course. Is the most important thing is you've got to be able to communicate that result that you're offering people, because the buzzwords and the things in your head of why it's so powerful, somebody just arriving on your landing page, they're not going to understand that unless you communicate really clear. This is what you're going to achieve. This is the outcome that you're going to get from this in very simple words. And don't expect them to understand the buzzwords, which may have meaning to you, but may not mean anything to them yet.
Exactly. The people I was talking to, they said, it's above our heads. And I thought, everybody's going to understand it, but no.
Yeah. I try to communicate this to my team as well, to have them understand how to better communicate their ideas, like internally in our team, so they can be able to help us move to the next step of whatever they're trying to do or their idea really is. And because there's a lot of it where I think you described it well, that you have this idea and it's clear to you. It's like, I got it. But
Yeah.
then you realize when you actually talk about it, it doesn't get communicated in the way that you thought that
No,
it would. Even
no,
if
no,
you
no.
feel like you've said it relatively plainly, it's just kind of over the other people's head. And so it is really important to refine that.
Yeah. To communicate really simply, Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm curious about, from like the neuroscience perspective, how does neuroscience help somebody achieve clarity or validate their business idea? Because this is something that I'm interested in, but I don't know maybe enough of how the actual science impacts that.
Well, it's basically going back to your identity. Most people, honestly, Brian, don't know who they are.
Mm.
So in neuroscience, you need to find your identity, your driving purpose, your vision, but also, as I said before, the inner saboteur strategy. So it's to do with that. Because the inner saboteur is really, really powerful. It's the reptilian brain at the back of your head, above your spine, and it's had control over most of us. And it wants to keep that control. But once we turn the sabotage strategy around on 3 levels, then we're pretty much unstoppable as long as we have a driving purpose.
What's like an example of one of those levels? I'm curious because like for myself, um, I don't know exactly what I would define my saboteur as, but I know that that has happened to me, and I've caught myself in times in the past of realizing like, well, why am I thinking this way, or why am I actually limiting myself in this way when I could, like, why can't I just do this? And so one of the mechanisms, I guess, that I've learned to use with myself early on in life was thinking about, if I have some idea or if I have this thing I want to work on, like thinking and asking myself the question, why can't I do this? And looking at it from that perspective and realizing that if I can't come up with a actual good answer or an actual good reason, then I can move forward with it. And I think that question, like asking myself internally, has been helpful. But I'm curious how you would say to approach things like this.
All right. Saying to yourself, why can't I do this, implies I can't, right? But changing it to how can I do this changes your whole mentality. And
Mm.
then your brain starts to kick in and say, well, okay, what do you mean? How can I do this? Well, I know it's possible. I know I can do it. Show me how. That's all. And your whole attitude changes when you say how. It's just how, not why can't. Because the inner saboteur loves why can't. Well, you can't. It's impossible. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I
how?
guess I completely understand that. I guess internally I'm approaching that from a more positive way. I shouldn't say
Okay.
why I can't, but I'm approaching it from a more positive outlook of like, the default is that there is no reason why I can't do it. That the
Ah,
default thinking
got
is
it.
I
Yeah.
can do this,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
proving to myself that there definitely is no reason why that
Okay.
would be stopping
You're
me.
saying it the
Um,
Irish way, right?
yes.
Okay.
But I like that of using how in that
How is a
situation.
great word. How can I do this? Because we're often the saboteur will tell us, well, you don't know how to do this. You haven't been on a course. You haven't done this. You who do you think you are? Well, I'm going to do this. It has to be done. And so show me how. I'll try this, and then if that doesn't work, I'll try this, I'll try this, I'll try this. And then just keep going. Eventually,
Yeah.
the saboteur will give in.
Yeah, I see a lot of people are stuck because they're probably not they're not even asking themselves that how yet. They think, "Oh, I want
Exactly.
to do X. I want to start my course business. I want to start whatever business it is." And then it's like, "Okay, well, now do it." but for some reason they're stuck. They just they don't have a logo yet, or I just need to do this thing first, or some kind of excuse. But then that excuse for some reason becomes a complete blocker to move forward with anything. And really the question should be like, well, how can I do this thing that I believe I need to do to move forward?
Right. And instead of saying I want to, the saboteur will say, if you say I want to, will say, yeah, you want lots of stuff. But if you say I will, I'm going to, this is going to happen, whether you like it or not, in a saboteur, then it changes the conversation. I will. This is what is going to happen. Why? Because I'm the boss.
Yeah. I think that is really important. And there's a lot of, I guess, I don't know how to communicate it maybe very clearly right now, but there's a lot of things where you kind of simply aren't getting started on it. But when you say like, I'm going to actually do this, I will actually do this, and you actually start doing something, it's incredible, like how easy it was in hindsight.
Yes.
Like once you actually start working on it, it's like, I could have just been doing this. There was
Exactly.
no reason why I just said I wanted to do it, but there was nothing actually holding me back. I could have just done any small progress, and then now it's happening.
Yeah. And sometimes it takes a long time. And the thing to say to yourself is like, I don't care how long it takes. I don't care what it takes. I am doing this. I'm getting this. Oh, well, maybe you need some help. No, I'll do it.
Yeah, I like that. Can you walk us through one of your favorite success stories where somebody came to you like unclear about themselves and what they were trying to do in their career and then left with more clarity?
Absolutely. So I was in the States at the time. I lived near the Golden Gate Bridge. I spent 12 years in the States, and thank God I did, because I wouldn't have discovered that I was an entrepreneur. Because I started off as a teacher, then a psychotherapist. I was very successful as a psychotherapist, but it didn't fulfill me. So I was in San Francisco, and this client came to me and he said, well, Katarina, I am sorry, but I'm very, very skeptical, because I've been looking for my driving purpose for 50 years. I mean, almost since I was born. And you say you can do this in 4 hours and you don't even know me. And I say, that's correct. And I have the right questions and you have all the answers. So it's a perfect partnership. And if you're not happy by the end of the 4 hours, that's it. You don't pay me. So this guy wrote to me, I think it was 4 to 5 years, 4.5 years later, and said, well, Katarina, I just want you to know I'm a millionaire now. Because I said to him, he said to me, first of all, well, in 1 year I'm going to make $1 million. And I said, well, we tend to overestimate what we do in 1 year, what we can do in 1 year, and underestimate what we can do in 5 years. But in 5 years, he did make his first $1 million.
Yeah, that's great. So for somebody listening right now, maybe they're still in a corporate job, but they're feeling this calling to do something more. What would you say is the first question that they should ask themselves?
Sorry, they are just starting up their business, or they're in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
corporate world?
they feel this calling to start a
To
business and do
start.
something more than a corporate job. What's the first question they should ask themselves?
And they're in the corporate world at the moment, you mean? Yes.
Yes.
The first question they should ask themselves is, who am I as an entrepreneur? Because it's a very different identity than the corporate identity. What's my driving purpose? What is going to stop me? And I would advise people in the corporate world to actually stay in corporate, because the last thing you need to do as an entrepreneur is go through the anxiety of not making an income. And it doesn't happen straight away. I mean, you know that. don't you, Brian? I mean, most people who are listening will know that you don't necessarily make, thousands of dollars, six figures in the first few months. Absolutely not. But if you have a driving purpose, you're fulfilled, so you're happy, and you're going to keep going. But the first question I would ask them is give themselves 6 months to a year and start their business on the side. I call it a Sunday business. Just spend 4 to 6 hours every Sunday. I mean, I know it's difficult if you've got a family, but even if you do 2 or 3 hours and you really put everything into it, it's going to make a difference in 6 months or a year. Once you start making an income that matches your salary or nearly matches your salary, quit. But don't quit corporate before. Even if you're miserable, you might want to change job. But have an income so that you can create your business, start your business without the anxiety of not being able to pay your bills.
Yeah, I agree with that because we talked about taking risks, and taking risks is important, but you don't have to be reckless with things and how you do that. And there's a way to be an entrepreneur where it actually feels eventually more secure than a job because nobody can fire you because you have your own business now.
Exactly.
And for myself, like that was starting off as a freelancer and then this small design studio. And I didn't move into like building some of my first products before I already had that. And so that was the income that helped to fund building these products. And then it just went on from there. Exactly. But then that way in doing it, it didn't feel risky because I had something to fall back on.
Exactly.
So right before we started recording, you were talking about the idea of a study with children and how they think and how we kind of lose that as we become adults. Can you share that with everyone a little bit? And also, do you have any recommendation in how we can kind of fix that or improve that in ourselves as we get older?
Absolutely. Great question. Thank you, Brian. So this is Dr. George Land's NASA research on 1,600 children in the United States. And he found that 98% of children were operating from creative genius. 98% were operating from creative genius. So up to the age of 6, children are natural geniuses. So by the time they're in their teens, which is a tough time for most people, it was down to 12%. So that 98% creative genius has gone down to 12%, which is shocking. And these same children, once they are adults, their creative genius went down to 2% as adults. So this research was done 62 years ago, and I know in Britain they started to say, well, let children do whatever they like and be creative. So obviously the children drew graffiti all over the walls and did exactly what they wanted to do, and it was chaos. So they haven't yet come up with a system where we can actually nurture the creative genius. Global Leadership Schools has, actually. We train teachers to bring out the entrepreneurial brilliance in children at the age of 7. They start up to their linguistic geniuses up to the age of 6, so they can learn 3 languages at play school or preschool. And then that's a huge advantage for an entrepreneur if they can speak, if they're trilingual. And then they start their entrepreneurial journey at 7, make all their mistakes through school, and leave school with an entrepreneurial business that they can monetize. So they have income for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, yeah, that's excellent. So, uh, how does like this creative genius, like how is that measured? How is that manifested in somebody? Is it like their ability to think outside of the box and how to approach things, or what does it mean exactly?
Yeah, it's their creative genius. It's if you know your creative genius, you're very, very close to your driving purpose, because your genius is part of your purpose, right? So basically, if let's say these children, they know three languages, they can speak almost fluently, they find their entrepreneurial blueprint at the age of 7, they develop it, and then their genius helps them to find their driving purpose.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I
but
like
that can
that.
only happen if the teachers are also on purpose and they're trained as entrepreneurs as well, which most teachers are not at all.
Yeah, I think there's a
School
lot that can
is
be
boring. School is
improved in the school system. Yes.
absolutely.
So I guess in terms of talking about though on the subject of how we learn, what are your thoughts on AI and how that can help businesses and people?
A great question, because children love AI. They're always playing, games, and they want to be entertained, and their brains work very fast, and they're very bored at school. So AI can help a lot. There's a teaching method called super teaching, which is a right brain, left brain. There are three screens at the front of the class, and one screen is all about nature. So children love nature, people love nature, so they're focused on that. Your right brain is active. It activates the left brain. All the knowledge is on the left screen, and children learn at 98%. They take in the knowledge at 98%, which they normally would. It's about 30% that they would take in. So children come to me and say, "Listen, my teacher takes 1 hour to explain the Boston Tea Party, for example. But I can go on YouTube and find it in 10 minutes." I mean, we live in an age of information. So children should use AI. Classrooms should use AI. Not to cheat in exams, of course, but we need to use AI much more than we do at the moment.
Yeah, I think an example that I feel like relates to share with everyone, going back to the how of you just have to figure out the how, is you can ask AI the how if you're stuck on it.
Yeah.
And what's cool is AI can not only just give you the information like you could find in Google or YouTube, but it can give it to you in a way that you can connect with or understand better.
Yes.
And so you can ask the AI, hey, this is what I know about, this is what I relate to. Explain it to me in this way or in terms of
Yeah.
knowing this. And then you can get to digest that in a way that you're actually able to, instead of having to read some research paper or formal writing on something that just doesn't really sink in.
Doesn't resonate. No, absolutely. That's exactly how. And why shouldn't children do that? Say, this is what I want to say in this essay. This. AI, do the rest for me. Because why not? Why go through that when AI is so clever at, especially, I must say, for visionary entrepreneurs, because we know what we're talking about. But AI understands us so much better and can put our thoughts in a way that is dynamic and easy to understand.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things that's really, it's so good at transforming information. And so the easiest example of that is you can have this word that you can't think of, but there's a better word for it.
Yeah.
And you can describe that to AI and you can say a bunch of basically gibberish of trying to communicate of
Yeah.
what am I trying to say here? and it will get it and it'll figure it out and say, well, you could just say this. And it's like, oh, wow, okay. Well, that would have taken me forever to find that in a thesaurus or something.
Yeah,
And
AI is a
so, yeah,
genius. I mean, we can't rely on it 100% because it can get certain things wrong, but it's extremely helpful. It's extremely polite, and we'll find the words that we're looking for. Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, I like that. So, on the show, I'd like to have every guest ask a question to the audience. So if you could ask our audience anything, whether something you're curious about or kind of just want to get people thinking about, what would that be?
Well, my favorite question is, what's your driving purpose? What are you up to in life? You know, what the heaven are you here for? I'm going to write that. That's going to be a book, actually. What the heaven are you here for? Because it shouldn't be hell. Work shouldn't be a drudgery, Brian. We shouldn't be miserable at work. And often, most times, our vision of life is not aligned with our work vision. So we go and work for a boss who has a completely different vision to us. And that's a recipe for misery. We need to be aligned with our own vision and have a team that works with our own vision.
Yeah, completely agree. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Before we get going, where can people find you online?
LinkedIn is the best place. Katarina Hanssens Carlsson. LinkedIn accept my formal name, Catherine Carlsson, but otherwise it's Katarina Hanssens Carlsson. You can find me there. And since you've listened to the end of this podcast, I have an offer for you. And that is, I'm releasing my second book, which is called Set to Win, and it's for entrepreneurs, the neuroscience of your entrepreneurial success. It will take you right through the process of my consultation. And it's on Amazon. It's coming out this week. And to get chapter 1, all you have to do is to write the code creator. Send me a message and I will send you chapter 1. And
Great.
please
And we'll put
give Brian 5 stars for his podcast. You're
thank
a
you.
natural.
And we'll put a link in the description for that as well.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Bye.